Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Between Two Keepstars. I'm your host, Riker, and today I'm actually joined by by my newest co-host, Jeremy. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Jeremy Andedare, Eve's newest Valkyrosa lookalike, apparently.
I thought it was Valcorcia.
Of course, I don't know.
Anyway, we have a very interesting show for you guys today. Some good things, some not so good things. Either way, there stuff happened, wouldn't you say?
Um, Indeed, stuff happened. Uh, some good stuff, some fun stuff, some not so fun stuff, and just some straight up weird stuff.
Well, stuff happening in Eve is good. So the topics we have this week, so are actually quite a few, and I know there's a specific topic that people are really interested in, but that's later down the list. Seeing as this show hasn't actually aired in quite some time, there's a lot of catching up to do. So to start off, this show aired before Christmas, and
Hold
we
on, hold on. We apparently were too quiet.
that's something I really can't control.
Okay, well I'm gonna turn up my local gain then on Discord. Is this better? Test, test.
It's fine.
Well, I've been messaged by 5 people saying I'm too quiet. Ah! Anyways, what were you going on about?
So the first thing that happened that was actually of relevance was the Christmas truce.
Hmm.
So this happened right before Christmas, and the idea essentially was to make it so that both sides didn't really have any timers and could enjoy their Christmas. This I actually thought was, I'm not gonna lie, this I thought was pretty cool. Granted, there were a few skirmishes, but other than that, not much really. People seem to really keep to their word, essentially.
Not at all. The Christmas truth didn't even last the Christmas vigil mass I went to. Uh, we had we had we had more than usual timers made. We had several structures bashed, a lot of things toasted. It did not last on both sides. It's a cool concept. It just didn't pan out that way. The Christmas, the Christmas truth was a Christmas untruth, if you will. Yeah, new day, new war. It just it wasn't it really was something that came from the top down, I think, and not something that the line members really wanted. Not I would say should wanted, but not all the line members had agreed to, or you know, agreed with, maybe. Let's say that.
Well, right, and I think that kind of happens with anything. You're gonna have people that's like, "Oh, fuck the truce. I'm gonna go do what I want." But like, it seems for the most part, yes, timers are created, but it really didn't affect anything. Like, were those timers actually followed up on?
I think a few of them were. I'm not 100% sure though. I could be wrong. I believe at least a few unimportant ones were, but I don't think anything actually came out of them, no, though, except having to run around on Christmas Day trying to figure out what the timers were doing.
Okay, well that
Which,
yeah. Well, and I think too with a lot of things, there's gonna be some hiccups, but overall, I think looking at it just in general, I think it was pretty successful. Because I mean, hell, we had a Griffin ball game, which was honestly really cool. I don't know which one though, but that was cool.
uh, yeah, I think it could have been done better. But anyways, I do think that in the end, it really didn't affect anything. It might have cost a little bit extra time, but I don't think anything major came out of it.
Yeah, all in all, it was pretty cool, and yeah. However, there were some fights. Actually, were quite a few fights that happened on Christmas Day that I personally really enjoyed.
Oh, I wasn't really on Christmas Day, so I didn't get to do any of them.
So just to throw it out there, basically the fights that happened on Christmas Day, and I actually don't have the battle reports. Is essentially we took a couple of Ferox's into 1DQ multiple times. I think we did it once on the day before Christmas Eve and then Christmas Eve, and we just brawled it out. I believe I believe PanFam came out on top in terms of ISK War, but it was still like it was a bloodbath.
I got you.
I think it might have been like I saw numbers from like 11 bill Imperium lost to like 7 bill PAPI.
I
Or no,
got you.
yeah, I saw a lot of different numbers. But anyway, it was a fun fight. It was what was funny was that how the fight went down was we came in with our Feroxes and we had very very little Logi. And once we came in, we murdered everything on the gate. A lot of stuff did get off though, and then goons came in with their Ferox fleet, and they seemed to come in like right at the edge of bubbles. So as they were warping in, we basically just started murking them. And and keep in mind we didn't have very much Logi, so we were essentially shooting them as fast as they were coming. So our Logi essentially was our DPS. We were doing enough DPS to where it didn't matter. However, they did get up to critical mass and they did do something which I thought was honestly really really smart. One of the things we had our fleet positioned right on the gate essentially, and what the goons did is they were actually using what are they called? Command decies to get onto our fleet and then jump us off so that we would be out of whatever Logi we had. However, they didn't really seem to capitalize on much because we were easily able to burn back to gate. However, they were able to capitalize it when our fleet decided to jump through the gate and Feroxes were caught on the other side and just died. So I think that happened to me like at least 3 times that I got jumped off, which, while annoying, I was still able to get back to the 8 and continue on the fight. So all in all, pretty fun.
Alrighty, very cool.
Like I personally think the best part of this war has been the small little engagements. What do you think?
Yeah, dude. I mean, obviously we can't have the large set piece battles anymore. Like we saw that yesterday, which we'll get on to. But I don't think maybe the small little engagements. Yeah, they're not war defining, but they are fun.
I mean, I feel like if you have enough of them, they could be war defining, but there's not been enough of them.
No, it's just it. We need to figure out, maybe how to have more fun in the war. I'm having a lot of fun in the war.
Oh,
Manning
I am
structure.
too. Like I'm pretty sure like everyone is having fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's
I
just
don't
been
know.
so like the war's been so content rich. It's just it's great. I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
It's
I know some people might be like, "Oh, when was this war going to end?" Personally, I don't want this war to end. I just
I
want
think
to keep fighting.
yeah. I think the war has to end though pretty soon, like within the next 2 to 3 months. Even if it just stalemates out, like it's kind of starting to do now with the current situation in M2 TAC. It's kind of just stalemating out.
Yeah.
But
Well, we'll
hopefully we'll see the
don't
end.
worry, Jeremy. We'll get to that.
Yeah,
We still have
absolutely.
a fuck ton of topics to go over.
Alrighty.
All right, so the next topic, a holiday event. Um, I haven't actually been participating in this much, and I don't know if I talked about it last week or the last time this show aired, but if so, then we're gonna talk about it again. Um,
Okay.
so the one thing I really like about this event is the skins. I think I just in general I like events that do cosmetic items because it's fun. It gives us something to work towards and do without having like that much of an impact. Like it's not to the point where it's like, oh yeah, no, we're doing this thing and we're getting this cool thing and it's this cool skin, but it's not this massive thing to where our alliance leaders are like, hey, you need to go do this event because this reward gives us an advantage. It's just something sort of fun you can do on the side.
Has there ever been an event that like Alliance leadership was encouraging their members to do because of that?
Not that I know of. Like to my knowledge, a lot of the events have just been cosmetics, which
Yeah, I don't really do any of the events. I don't think I've fired a single snowball over the past few events. I've never done them because I don't. I like the cosmetic stuff. I just never really have cared about it. Because 90% of the time I'm zoomed out all the way and I can't even see like an individual ship or like a fleet, let alone my individual ship.
Oh, you see,
But
whenever I play, I'm literally just I'm zoomed immediately into my ship, and if I don't have a cool skin, I I'm not super sad panda, but I am a little sad panda.
I got you. Yeah, I always just play like zoomed all the way out.
Like
I don't
with
know.
speaking of skins, I really now hope now that with that new what was it, that new CCP skin, I really hope there's an Astero doctrine just so that I can put the skin on my Astero and fly it around with it. That's the only reason I want an Astero doctrine.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pappy
I
leadership,
thought
get
about
on it.
getting.
Also make Nullsec great again.
Yeah, I thought about it. I thought about getting a skin for a few of my ships, like the like my monitor and whatever. But
You know, I actually had no idea the monitor had skins. That's actually pretty cool.
monitor has a police skin, which I really want.
That sounds cool. Yeah. So yeah, holiday event. I like it. So there actually was a cool thing. So I was watching a stream, and it was basically of this dude going and doing all the holiday events in high sec. And in high sec, how it works is you get the loot by doing the most damage, and
Hmm.
he would warp into sites where there's already people doing the event, kill everything, and then just immediately do top damage on the battleship.
Hmm.
And it was so funny because you had so many people getting so angry at this dude because like
Yeah.
keep in mind he's in a nightmare which does a metric fuck ton of damage, and these guys are like in praxises, and they're clearing the sites, but they're clearing them kind of slowly. There was one in a Gila, and they're
Hmm.
like he won every single contest, and instead
Yeah.
of, now granted like that does suck for those people, but he literally went to some of them and say, "Hey, I can teach you how to win these contests." But nah, they just were not having it. They were just like, "Grr, you stole my site," or "You're in my site, get out." Keep in mind
Hmm.
this was also in high sec, which I'm sorry, high sec is such a weird place. Like it's funny going to high sec as a null secker. Like it's just so foreign because you've got it's almost like you have sort of like space bushido in a way. Like you've got people saying, "Oh well, this is my site, get out." Well, it might work that way in nullsec where you can enforce it, but in highsec, like, nah, sorry, dude. If you're in this site and I want this site, I'm gonna contest it. Like that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. There's not. High sec is kind of weird in that sense.
Like in nullsec, okay, you go into someone's ratting site, that is kind of a dick move, and there can be consequences. Well, actually, okay, now I need to be consistent. Yes, going into someone's site in highsec is also a dick move, but like, what are you gonna do about it? Absolutely nothing. So that's why I'm okay with it. Which might sound terrible, but you know what? Yeah, no, it is a terrible thing. In high sec, you can't enforce it. I'm sorry, where were we going with this? Oh,
I don't know, dude. I don't go to high sec.
you know what? Let's move on. Let's let's just stop this right here and let's just go to the next thing. All right. So the next topic that I actually wanted to cover, and something that I'm a little bit, well, not something that I'm interested in, is why people are fighting this war. Of course, we know the official reasons why people are fighting this war, but personally, I'm fighting this war because it's great content. I don't know about you. I guess what are your thoughts on that?
I just really don't like goons. Like that's the long and short of it, right? I don't like goons. My corp doesn't like goons. I.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
that's fair. I guess like what I guess I need to ask, why do you specifically not like goons?
Um, in the history, there's a video online. I'm sure every one of us has seen the history of the empires of Eve Online, and they talk about that the goon swarm always operated by saying that they wanted to ruin everybody else's game. And I was already pretty interested in Eve Online, the stories and whatever from that. And I decided that if I was going to start Eve Online, my goal was going to be to fight against Goonswarm. That was what I wanted to do. So I joined Horde originally, then Brave, and now I'm in Test. And I just don't like goons. I've met good Imperial members, but there are a lot of them I have a personality conflict with. I don't think they're healthy for the game, let's say, and I just want to evict them. Just wanted to get them out of here, and then first off, we won't have a massive blob that no one can fight. Like it takes the rest of the galaxy to stand a chance at killing one alliance, right? Which shouldn't be how it is at all. So I think it's not good for the game.
Well, and to that point, so one thing that's not good for the game, I personally think, is you've got these. I do agree that having one big empire that goes around and just shit stomping little empires is kind of is bad. Like PL used to do that a while back, or at least it felt like they used to do that, and I thought that that was bad for the game. With goons, yeah, they go around and they shit stomp people, but like I don't recall them ever declaring a hell war on some small little alliance for no reason.
I mean, the first thing that ever happened to me in EVE Online when I joined Nullsick was I was immediately evicted out of Geminate in the glassing in the Northern War we had last year. The first thing that ever happened to me in EVE was that Goonswarm evicted Horde from Geminate.
Okay, yeah, but
So
that's like PanFam though. Like
yeah,
PanFam's not a small little alliance. PanFam's a
I know. I'm just
PanFam's a
giving context why
superpower.
I don't also like it. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like, well, no, they were helping out in the war with the United Federation of Conifers and all that. That they were influencing that. It's like literally like a Vietnam scenario, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but
But they,
were they bringing their whole super fleet to go and smash them?
yeah, they they did they did bring supers and titans. I know I killed them. I don't know if they were titans. I know they brought like capitals, but
Okay, but they didn't do like a PL style. We're gonna completely destroy everything and burn and chase people around the galaxy.
no. But
Okay,
I'm sure if they really wanted to, they could.
I mean, yeah, they could, but I mean, they haven't. Like, what I think is bad for the game personally is that you've got is again people running around with these big super capital umbrellas and just dick stomping the little guy and following them all around. Like I think that's bad for the game. All right,
Yeah, it is. I mean,
like
but how many times has that happened though? Except wormhole space, maybe.
honestly, the last people I can remember doing it was PL.
Yeah, and how long it's been since PL was an active corporation doing that?
Good point. But anyway, so yeah, I personally don't think goons are bad for the game, and I'm gonna be real. I'm only doing this because I just want content.
That's fair. Yeah, fraternity. That's true. Fraternity did evict a lot of small corps. Um, but I get the content thing. But at the same time, again, like I said, there needs to be like a balance almost. There needs to be every. I think that every big alliance should be threatened by every other big alliance, right? Like I think that's how it should be. Is that it should be kind of a checks and balance system almost. And right now, that every other large alliance has had to team up into PAPI to kill Goonswarm because they had gotten so large and so out of control. That's what's happening. And of course, they have a very different culture to the rest of the game. A lot of the corporations do. But
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. So I don't know, but I think this war has been fun, and I want it to continue. And honestly, I
uh,
don't think it's gonna slow down. Yeah, what happened last night really does suck.
it's
Yeah,
not going to slow down, but to it is going to change the war. It
Yeah.
is going because, like I said, right now we're at a stalemate, right? We have a large contingency of PAPI supers trapped,
Yeah, but
which
that's
isn't
not
good. And we
all.
have
Like
it's
Pappy
not
still
all
has
of
a
them,
lot of
no.
supers.
And we also know from last night that if you get 4 to 5,000 people in system before your enemy, like for a major timer, you just win by default at that point, right? You just can absolutely not even have to really do anything, just sit in the system with 5,000 people, and you won. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how the implications for that for stuff like if we want to assault 1DQ, which is going to be very hard already, due to the faction fortizar are in range of the iHub. But if goons wanted it to do something like, say they ref the T5 ZI keep, right, and they got it into Hull. If we did the exact same thing that they did tonight, because they don't have anywhere to drop a structure in range, we've pretty effectively stopped them from dropping any kind of siege fortizars.
Right.
We would again win by default basically because we just have more people undocked and they couldn't get anyone into the server. Or if you wanted to like ref 1DQ, we could do it all if we got 6,000 people in system and we just refed each structure. Like there's nothing that they could do because they couldn't get into system. So it has a lot of implications for this war about how the log on the basically the lag mechanics, especially with the ghost titans, is going to work.
Yeah, and we'll get into that shortly. Um,
Hmm.
so the next topic was the first Keepstar being destroyed in Delve, which again that was pretty much uncontested. Um, I feel like that Keepstar was a proof of concept of yes, Pappy's initial plan does work, and it's of putting the jammers down and basically assaulting Keepstars under the cover of a jammer. Yes, it does work. However, my biggest gripe with that was okay, well, what if they pre-stage supers, which is what we
Well,
saw.
well, they didn't. No, they didn't pre-stage supers. They signed them in. They they had they signed them in well before the fight and got them into position. That's what happened both times, because we decided
Yeah,
a
they
few days.
pre-staged before the fight
Yeah.
when the jammer was off.
Well, the jammer doesn't exist. The jammer's not existed since like the armor timer of this for the after the shield timer. They went down a while ago because they got refed, and we plan to re-anchor new ones. And it just whatever happened, we decided to take the fight without the jammers for whatever reason, and that's what started all this. Was we didn't have any jammers online. We can like if we wanted to go around to every other Keepstar with jammers in these systems and just ref them uncontested, we can now. We know we have that ability. Uh, but we also know that Goonswarm is able to contest these, and it's just a matter of which side is going to form up earlier to fight to do this. And I think, we should have maybe pre-staged earlier for this one, especially with the Titans we have trapped, where we should have at least started getting people into system, like subcapitals at least, because I was in FC, I was doing a Jackdaw tackle fleet during last night, and we lost 100 dudes to disconnect before we even jumped in, right?
Yeah,
So I think null is the concept of what Pappy can do under the most ideal circumstances. Yes,
yeah, and
but I
MTAC 2 was leadership fucked up.
Um, to an extent, yeah, but at the same time, you're kind of in a bad position there.
Leadership fucked up just as much as like I feel like in terms of the server and leadership, like you gotta blame them both equally. Like it's stupid that the server died and we didn't get a fight, but also Pappy leadership definitely could have pre-staged us. Because again, we had a Fortizar in system that we could have easily jumped our supers to and left them there.
Yeah, but the problem with that is it's just because of race to the bottom. Like if we just say, okay, just pre-stage early, every major time is going to be an alarm clock off where we all wake up like right after downtime to log everything in, then just go AFK. Like everyone put your drones out and orbit, go AFK, whatever.
Yeah,
So
it's not
other people can't
ideal.
get the system.
Like it's not ideal, and like yeah, it sucks that we have to do that, but like that's what we needed to do if we were gonna win.
Well, I think people would just rather not play the game than do that.
And honestly, I think I don't know if you're right or not by that from that because I know I've definitely pre-staged super early, and there have been times where I've had to wake up super early. It, I,
Yeah,
yeah. Again,
but
I'm
not
gonna leave it.
everyone's able to do that. And not everyone wants to do it all the time, right?
Yeah,
So we need to find a way to have these big set piece battles because this war is going to end. Yes. By the way, in chat, Euro, every ghost ship survived. So every unfitted Titan hull you see survived. So there was actually we had 110, 120 Titans that got killed. Yeah. About half of the Titans that were lost yesterday, or maybe even more, just came back alive, respawned.
yeah. So yeah, Talking in Stations actually is saying right now that there was 90 Ghost Titans. So, whew,
Yes.
damn. All
Yes,
right.
CCP kindly replaced the Titans for us. No, the goons did not get ammo back.
Wait, did oh I thought never mind. That was a meme. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I guess now that we've gone over the other stuff or the other topics, yeah, let's just dive right into MTAC 2. So for those of you who don't know, last night there was a fight over the final timer of the MTAC 2 Keepstar. Uh, Goons pre-state, well, not pre Goons jumped into system, I think like 3 hours early. Yeah, 3 hours before PAPI did, and had like 600 Titans on grid ready to attack. Um,
Hmm.
in that same system, there was a ton of PAPI capitals and supers and Titans. Granted, I don't know how many, but there were quite a few trapped underneath a bubble camp that had been trapped there since, well, the middle of the week. Um, they jumped in, they sat there, they camped, and then roughly an hour before the time was supposed to come out, PAPI Titans jumped in. Now, what's important to know is that when PAPI started logging in, the system of T5Z where they're staging out of hit 10% tie-dye, which
Hmm.
basically turned it into kind of a fuckfest.
Yeah.
Um, they were then jumping into another 10% tie-dye system, which basically caused issues, which I don't think anyone is surprised by. The
No,
yeah,
no.
the issues caused by it were you had Titans not loading grid, you had people doing it, you had people getting a system cap issue, which basically
Mhm.
we don't we don't know if there was actually a system cap issue, but we know that's the error people were getting.
Yeah, it was a very weird and someone talked about CCP talking about, what CCP is going to do. CCP has a precedent of they probably aren't going to do anything. If they do something, it's going to be a quite a precedent breaker, in fact. Um, going on to the server thing, there was a lot of stuff it could have done that, technically speaking, that could have caused it. It could be old POS code. It could be something to do with how a capsule fits in a ship. It could be something to do with how the server handles the priority of the list of actions, right? So how far down the server list? 'Cause it's a single thread. How far down is adding new ships into the system, new pilots into the system far down the list? And apparently, it's pretty far down. I guess after a while, the game is just hardwired to kick you back to the system you went into for whatever reason. It's just some spaghetti code that messed up somewhere. And CCP's probably on holiday right now, but they're probably um, they're probably some dudes at home looking at this and going, what happened here? Do we need to break precedent and intervene? Do we need to, you know, maybe even to the point of reversing the battle, which obviously that would be a huge victory for Pappy, is just to have CCP snap their fingers and reimburse every ship that was killed in that system over a certain amount of time. Yeah, in chat, the MTUs were for refits. The mobile depots were for refits for whatever side dropped them, I think. But I know that Goons uh, had a lot of mobile Sino inhib jammers out. That's what they were deploying a lot of, was Sino inhib jammers to prevent us from getting a good positioning
Yeah.
in that fight.
Well, speaking of positioning, so one thing that I thought actually was pretty smart was us sinoing on the top of the grid, like that.
Mhm.
I thought that that was pretty cool in the effect of, okay, so now they need to boat their supers up to up top so that they can
Yeah.
fight our supers, which in theory, I'm saying this in theory because I don't know if this would work, but in theory it would allow subcaps to come in, clear the bubbles, allow the trap titans to jump out, get to T5Z, refit, and then jump back in on the top. That's how I think the battle was supposed to go on the
Yeah.
Pappy side.
I agree. I've been kind of going back and forth in this in my head yesterday because Redline and of course anything on New Eden Post yesterday, they explained to me the benefits of signing in on the Fortizar versus signing in the Keep, and I'm kind of back and forth. At the end of the day, I'm not leadership, and I don't know what went on behind the closed doors. And I'm always going to stand behind my leadership, especially my corporate leadership, in that decision, in the decisions they made. Right. Um, like I said, I think the in strategy, if all those Titans would have gone in, and if they would have held their invulnerability correct, what they could have done was they could have easily doomsdayed off several super capitals, more than enough to, because they were getting deleted at first by those fighters, the fighter bombers. If they could have simply killed the super pilots, which I think they would have more than enough capitals to, of course. Plus, with that many Titans, you'd have had a lot of bumping, a lot of spreading out, which I think was part of the plan, was to actually spread those capitals out, so the fighters had to boat from place to place. And if that would have worked, I think it would have been a good thing. On the other hand, I think that Pappy leadership should have anticipated the server possibly not loading everyone in, which has happened before, and maybe signing it onto the fort, clearing off bubbles with subcaps and boosters, and then warping up might have also been a viable strategy there too. So it's a lot of what ifs and armchair sky marshalling.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think at the end of the day, it was a disappointment for everyone. I think that Goons won, no questions asked. And it wasn't because of anyone's fault. It wasn't because of even bad tactical decisions. And there were possibly bad tactical decisions on both sides. For example, the goons signed in below the Keepstar before the fight, and they pre-staged, but that left them vulnerable to something like we tried to do, where we just went on the other side and attacked kind of the soft underbelly that they had. Um, but I think at the end of the day, it's a loss for anyone, for new players, for EVE Online in general, because people who are interested in EVE and see this world record are gonna look at the fight, look at what happened, and they're gonna see a lot of angry, frustrated, and sad posts about what happened at Impact at M2 TAC. The war is not over. That's definitely for sure. This war is not over. Pappy is not in as good a position as it was 3 days ago when we had the armor timer fight, or before we had the armor timer fight. I think you'd be a fool to say that they are somehow in a better position and that the war is still very much in our favor. And I still think that we can win this war. Pappy can, and I think that Goonswarm now has an opening to win this war as well. And this was kind of what they needed. We've always been kind of warned about pre about winning, about taking a victory lap before we've even been in 1DQ. And I think this is the wake up call.
Well,
I think this is the go ahead.
well, honestly, I think that I think everyone in Pappy knew that, okay, one of these days we're gonna fuck up. Um,
Hmm.
Villy even said last night, like, yeah, we're expecting to lose a ton of supers, and going into all these fights, I expected, like, hey, we're gonna lose a ton of supers. We're gonna get our dick kicked. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised that Pappy didn't get its dick slammed in a doorway sooner. Like, it 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 was going to happen eventually. Like, it happened to
It
Goons with
was,
the
yeah.
whole bow signing thing, and it was gonna happen. It was only a matter of time before it happened to Pappy.
Yeah, and it sucks that it was all our fault in kind of a way, but it really I don't think anyone could have done anything differently here. Like
Well,
the
see,
only thing that the only thing that might have done differently, which I thought was kind of funny, was have the entire super fleet jump into one DQ and ref the entire system while they couldn't get in.
about to say
Like
that would have been pretty funny. But yeah,
that
I don't think it was
2020.
necessarily our fault, as I don't think that the whole boson trap failing was Goon's fault.
Yeah,
Like, in
it wasn't.
theory,
I
it
think
should have worked, but the
yeah,
server said no, and I think the server said no to us last night as well.
and keep in mind the quote about Villy in PGL. I'm fairly certain that Villy the what he said about the boson trap. I'm not sure about PG. I'll have to go back and read. I know Villy what he said was that you should have brought more Titans if you wanted to try to do that. I think that's what he ended up saying was if they would have done that with more Titans, like 20 more Titans, it could have worked pretty well. The problem was they brought the bare minimum and it did the bare minimum because paper numbers and in practice numbers are different, especially in tie dye. To the point of this fight, I don't think we have had an attempt like this. We've never tested out these kind of numbers, right? We've had fights of somewhat similar scale, let's say. Of course, the armor timer for this fight, the Fury at FWST, stuff like that were kind of test runs for this bigger fight. And we had some confidence. I shouldn't say we. Pappy leadership had some confidence going in about what to do and about if they could do it. I should say if they could get a fight. And I'm more than certain they counted on people not being able to get into system with 1 to 2 hour load timers. I'm sure they had to have accounted for that. What I'm fairly sure that they didn't account for was people respawning and physically being kicked out of the server, things like that, which haven't happened since UALX many years ago. It's something I think they assumed that the software, the code, the infrastructure was to a point where that they could get a reasonable number of people in to kill the Keepstar. Maybe they won't be able to kill the capital fleet. Maybe they lose more capitals than Goonswarm did like last time. But they're able to kill this keep, and they're able to rescue the trapped caps out from underneath it, which was the main objective from this.
Yeah, and I agree with that. One of the things I think is interesting too is how, like, I guess,
Hmm.
where do we go from here? I think I think the biggest thing that was hurt last night wasn't our Titans League. Like, you just saw that 90 of those supers were Ghost Titans and they survived. Like, that's huge. Like,
Yeah, and it
yes,
wasn't just.
Pappy.
Sorry.
Oh, yes, Pappy got his dick stomped, but when you look at how many Titans survived because of being Ghost Titans, it definitely lessens the blow. Like, we're not talking, instead of talking like the literal hundreds of Titans that were lost, we're no longer talking about hundreds of Titans.
Yeah, we're talking about what was the final Titan count? I don't
I have no
recall.
idea if someone in chat
It was
can tell me.
maybe 100, 120 actual Titans dead. I don't know. I'll have to look. If Talking in Stations is here, I bet they have the numbers for it. I never got a clear count on that. but it's not over. Definitely 75. So 75 non-ghost titans died there, which in the context of we had about 900 titans staged. I'm not saying manned. It's about 900 titans in T5Z ready to go.
Yeah, but 75 Titans is, if 75 is the ends up being the actual number, that's still a lot of Titans.
The ghost titans are not lost. The ghost titans have all respawned. Every person who has had a ghost titan has their titan back right now. And that was the biggest thing about last night. Is if those ghost titans would have gone like they did previously in previous fights, at downtime the server would sync up, the ghost titans would get deleted.
Yeah.
What we see here is that that didn't happen. Those ghost titans have actually come back. They're in hangars. They're in the people still have them. Some of them are trapped. Some of them got out. Some of them died and respawned even. But if CCP precedent holds, we have a 75 Titan loss, which means our gap. And it wasn't just Titans. I saw Nyx, I saw Faxes, I saw Dreads that were ghost capitals that had already respawned and had already respawned and were completely fine, and we still had them. So now the question becomes, how do we extract these capitals out? And
Honestly, I'm not worried about that. I'm seriously not worried about the caps that are trapped. Like, they're gonna get out.
they will get out. the The problem is when and how, and that's what the short term goals, the short term view of these sorry, the short term view of these alliances are. They're going to look. There's going to be a lot of looking over the next week. There's going to be a lot of eyes on this Keepstar, and I'm starting to see some movement from the big players. Uh, I'm starting to see some things which kind of tells of how we're going to play this out. There's nothing concrete yet from any side. There's nothing been announced from any side. Someone asked in chat how many are trapped. Somewhere in the ballpark of, I would say, 2 to 300 supers. That includes super carriers and titans. About
So,
200.
yeah. So one of the questions is, are goons going to like keep this camp up for the duration of the war? Because that's the only way that I can foresee them actually like keeping those Titans trapped.
Yeah, so we've reached kind of a stalemate here with this now. We've gotten to a point where goons can't really do anything else besides camp this, because as soon as the numbers drop to a certain point in their capital fleet, what's going to happen is everyone is going to bridge back to T5Z, go back to T5Z, and those trapped capitals, if there are enough of them, are going to log in, and we are going to extract them if those numbers get too low. That's obvious. That should be obvious to anyone looking at this. Is that the opening is going to be when we can outnumber the capitals on the Keepstar grid.
Right.
So the question is, how can Goonswarm use their current capital fleet that they have here right now without also giving an opportunity for PAPI to use their capital fleet to extract their capital assets and then be put back in kind of the top dog position, as it were, let's say. Because right now, I think in this war with the Trapped Titans, I think Goonswarm is in a good position right now.
Yeah, goons.
How they maintain that?
Yeah, goons are in a good position, but at the same time, like that's
Mm.
still not like one thing that I think we have to remember is not what supers are trapped in T5Z, but all the supers and all the pilots that are still they're still active. Because like I still have a dread, a carrier, and soon to be Fax and a regular subcap pilot still in T5Z ready to fight. Like, there's more than likely no shortage of pilots and gear within T5Z that can still fight this war. And thing is if the Goon Supers and if their fleet stays camping, and we take that and we go around and we just sort of start destroying stuff, we could essentially force them into, like you said, a position where they either let us jump out our caps and go and chase our other fleets that are running around, or they stay and keep camping our stuff and lose elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like, multiple alliances did not jump in with that. Like, you had NCPL didn't jump in, you had Frat that didn't jump in, and that's actually something that we're going to need to talk about is Frat's big declaration of they're going to do a January push.
Sorry, you broke up. What did you say there?
The January push that Frat was talking about.
I haven't heard anything about that. You have to inform me about that.
So, apparently, during a Frat State of the Alliance, they hyped up this big sort of January push to where Frat is going to come down and basically start being a major player in this war, supposedly. Which
okay.
Which I think is really going to change it's definitely going to have a huge effect on the war if Frat does what they say they're going to do.
Yes, Frat is a big force. Let me tell you, NC lost a Titan yesterday. NC was there yesterday. PL tried to be there. What happened was they were moving from so far away. Fraternity especially had very long blue jump timers when they came into T5Z. You can see their Titan fleet sino into T5Z after we start fighting.
Mm-hmm.
They had the full intention of coming into that fight. All three of those alliances had the full intention to come and fight with us. And I think anyone else is being disingenuous if they say they didn't have the intention to once those blue timers expired. What had happened was by the time their blue timers has expired, we had already started having a lot of these server issues of people not being able to jump in, people not being able to get fleets in. And then we were given the order to stop trying to get into the system because we knew that we were not going to win this fight. By the time we had been told to stop trying to get into the system in Capitals and Titans, their blue timers had expired, but they were not able to jump in because they had gotten that order. Was what happened is the blue timers did not allow Fraternity to get into this fight. Is basically what happened.
Right.
So there's nothing about Fraternity being I'll give Fraternity a hard time on Trash Talk Tuesday, but Fraternity was going to fight. NC was going to fight. I can guarantee you that NC wanted to fight. They had Titans ready. They wanted to go in. Test and Horde went in first because that was just the decision made that day. That was how they decided to play it out. We couldn't even get we could barely get Horde in. It was mostly Test that jumped in because we went in first this time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we see, mostly Test's Titans were dying that day. We barely got Horde in, and by the time we got to NCPL, they weren't getting in at all. And then Fraternity was still in blue timer by the time we figured out we weren't getting anyone else in as well. NC lost to Titan. NC tried to get in. They got a few in, I think, and they couldn't get any more. PL and Fraternity just could not get their Titans in. They didn't fight because they didn't want to. They didn't fight because they weren't ready or they thought it was a bad idea. They were going to fight. They wanted to fight. The game prevented them from fighting, is what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
There's anything else is disingenuous and disrespectful to the good pilots in Fraternity and NC and PL who are going to come for this fight and who are going to have a blast. And the server, the game, did not let them fight.
Yeah, no, the server. Honestly, I don't know how CCP is going to react. Part of me thinks that, like, I don't know if they should replace Titans or not. Granted, like, some people say they should, some people say they shouldn't. but I do know that they have to say something. And
Yes, it is the world record fight. Sorry, you're right. Let me cut you off.
oh, no problem. Um, do like personally, I don't think CCP is gonna replace Titans. I mean, I have a very small I have very little faith that they're going to replace Titans because again, there's a precedent of they don't replace Titans in these big fuck fests of tie dye where the server breaks. Like they have said multiple times that they do not do that. However,
Yeah.
again, there are sometimes exceptions to the rules, and having it to where Titans they either ghost or they just straight up don't connect.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that they might say, okay, yeah, no, we're gonna replace those. However, the ones that did load grid and were able to fight, yeah, those aren't getting replaced. Like
Yes.
those are dead.
I could see something like that. Like I said, I really don't see them getting replaced. I I don't know what CCP should do. I think CCP will do what they think is best, and I think that if they do something, because if they delete the Ghost Titans, right, that helps Goon swarm out. If they reimburse the fight, that's going to help us out a lot. I'm not sure if they should do anything right now, but if they do something, it will affect. Yeah, because if they delete those Ghost Titans, we're gonna have to rethink everything we know about this war.
Yeah.
But if they keep it the same, it's gonna be interesting to see. Of course, it being a world record fight is what matters. That's the important part about this thing. Is that because we were willing to jump into this fight, we can make this an issue now, right? This is a world record fight that didn't happen. We could have easily had a 10,000 player battle, something never before dreamed up in the history of video games. 10,000 people in one system fighting, which would have been awesome to see. It would have been awesome. It would have made headlines everywhere. It would have been great publicity for E. We would have gotten 5,000 new players or whatever. And if any of those players who read the new world record, the third time we've gotten this record this war, they're going to be disappointed about what happened and they might not want to play this game because they know that this is it. Right now, as the game stands, there is no battle, if you can call this a really battle. There's nothing that they could do that would be bigger than this right now. Yeah, there was. I preferably speaking, as a member of PAPI, what I'd like to see as not as like some kind of neutral party. I want to see the fight reset. I want to say them come out Thursday saying that everyone is going to get reimbursed. Their Titans are going to move back to T5ZI or whatever, and they're going to reset the clock. Excuse me, on the hold timer. They're going to give us a better node that can support 10,000 people, 12,000, whatever it needs to be, 11,000, and we're going to kind of a redo on the fight. It's a false start, whatever.
I hate now that would
But of
be
course,
cool, and I think that I think that both sides would enjoy like just having a fight. I think that that's wishful thinking. Like I highly doubt CCP is going to do
it
that.
is. It definitely is. What I would like to see though, and here's what would make us have an actual fight. If CCP came out and said, "We're sorry for what happened. We're going to do some modifications. We're not going to reimburse anything. We're not going to take any of the Ghost Titans away. What we'll do is we're going to get with your leaderships independently. We're going to figure a we're going to figure out a time that works for everyone. Let's say like, sorry now, 100 hours on a Friday night. Yeah, say UST, kind of prime time for most Eve players. It's about 100. We're going to reinforce the node from that day until downtime. We're going to give you the super reinforced double triple ice cream sundae scoop node with sprinkles on top. and we will guarantee you in our private stress test that this is supported, 10,000 supers with 10,000 supers or 10,000 whatever with their fighters out. We simulated all this stuff. This should work. We've done it, and we'll give you all another chance to redo this. We're not going to put the timer back. We will, however, let you have a fight to extract these capitals that which you lost, which you risked and didn't get to use because of a internal error, which is what I would like to see, is them have some kind of reinforcement promise that it can support everyone who wants to get it. And then we have the fourth largest fight in video game history in this system.
Well, I think, and I would like to see that too. Honestly, though, the, the thing about game development and technology is that you can never be sure, and that's the thing that sucks. Like we saw that this type of fight with all these numbers, like we were able to have it in FWST.
Mhm.
Like it sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think you already said this. Like I don't think that they should like the more realistic option that I think is going to happen. I think has the most likely of happening is essentially that the Ghost Titans are going to stay as alive. The timer's going to stay as it is, and the ones that died are going to stay dead.
Yeah.
And they'll come out and say, "Hey, listen, we're sorry this happened. We're figuring out how it's going to happen. It sucks. This shouldn't be how if CCP at least says this shouldn't be how Titan fight should go down. We didn't want this to happen. This isn't how the game should be played." That would mean so much because it means that it essentially means that CCP agrees that yes, we don't want to have a game where you can just log in a fuck ton of characters and basically jam up a system. Because I don't think anyone wants that. Because if that were true, then this war would never end. Because if we attack 1DQ, then goons can just do that. Can just max log on other stuff. If they attack T5ZI, then we can just max log on all our stuff and it doesn't go anywhere. Like, it was dumb that it happened. The server exploded, but hey, you know what? Sometimes shit happens.
No, Mordecai's more to chat. NC did jump in. All right, NC got as many of their capitals in system as they could. PL just could not. Yeah, they canceled the order after test could not jump. They couldn't test, which went in first, couldn't even get their entire fleet in. They realized before Frat's blue timer was even up, and Frat had just jumped into T5ZI from a move op. And I don't know how big their red timer, I should say. I just got confused there. Before Fraternity's red timer was up, they realized that what was happening basically, and they gave the call that no one should be jumping their Titans in anymore because they knew that they had lost something. That the server was not going to be able to handle this, and that they were not going to be able to take this engagement at all. To the suggestion of dropping a Keepstar, yeah, I think that it would have been a good idea to drop a Keepstar, but here's the thing: is that we didn't know that it was going to be such a big battle. We didn't have time to drop a Keepstar. The anchoring timer on a Keepstar would probably have not come out in time for us actually to use that Keepstar to kill the whole timer. So we knew of the armor timer, obviously, that it was going to be a big fight. Actually, we didn't. We didn't even know. But, anyways.
Yeah.
So the problem here now, like someone said in chat as well, is this war is now stalemated. There's no way Goonswarm could ever kick PAPI out of T5ZI. There is no way that they could take any of their Keepstars. Any of the Keepstars currently in Delve owned by PAPI there's no way that Goonswarm will take them. Absolutely not. We can log in 4,000 people in a system before they can, and that's just the end of it. On the opposite side, any systems with a Goon Keepstar in them. Actually, I should say this, any system where the Keepstar, the iHub is different from the Keepstar. So if Imperium owns an iHub that's not that it has a PAPI keep, or they sorry, or any kind of Imperium system where PAPI owns the iHub and they can drop jammers and they can keep those jammers there, that Keepstar will most likely die. Simply because that side is going to know when they can jump in first, and then they're going to jump in first and close it so the other side can't jump in. Which puts the ball kind of in Pappy's favor. In terms of that, because that was their strategy from the beginning, was to hold these Keepstar systems and then bring their fleets in. Like I said earlier, for MTAC 2, the decision was the decision was made to not do that. For whatever reason, it was made to just fight straight through. So any system where you can hold the iHub in now, you can hold the Keepstar because you can log in more people than the other person can.
Well, that's the current precedent, and honestly, I honestly don't think that's what CCP is intending, and I do think that hey, they're gonna come out, they're gonna say something, they're gonna try to figure out a way to fix this.
They have to, because it's absolutely vital to the game, to the trust the player base has in CCP. For some people, what's left of the trust, if anything at all, of the trust they have for CCP. They need to work on their good faith gestures, and I think coming out and talking to alliance leaderships and saying, here's what we're gonna do, even if like CCP Helmar just wants to tweet, or CCP whomever, convict, whatever, wants to go out and wants to tweet right now, we're aware of the M2 situation, we're gonna investigate it internally, we might not have everything for you Monday, we want to be thorough about this, we expect to have some kind of announcement to say what we're going to do about this, say Thursday next week, and come out and what are they going to do? They get rid of the Ghost Titans. There's a lot of variables here that CCP needs to come out and answer, and they could answer them in 2 tweets or less, basically.
But I think they're
I
just.
bet a lot of them are on holiday though.
Yeah, I think right now what they're doing is they're just waiting because right now we obviously we can see that emotions are running a little bit high, and I think it's smart that CCP just lets people cool off a little bit until they make their big statement, because we've seen a lot of people. It would not surprise me if if emotions are high right now, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Emotions are very high, yeah.
All right, and CCP staying quiet for the time being while people cool off is the smart thing to do, because if they were to say something now, it might be taken the wrong way. However, if they wait a little bit and let people, sort of collect their thoughts, collect their heads, not literally, because if you need to collect your head literally, then you have a much bigger problem. And then, yes, they'll make their statement, because then people can look at it more objectively than they would with their emotions running high. Because I'm not gonna lie, this morning before I came on the show, I had to cool off a little bit.
Dude, because, I was ready to biomass my characters last night. I'm gonna be honest here.
Okay, I wasn't ready to do that, but the kinds of feelings that I had this morning and last night was I guess one of hopelessness, because not I don't give a shit about the fact that we lost supers. Yeah, okay, supers die all the time. But if this is what the future of EVE is, to where we're never going to be able to basically kick an alliance out of their space, if they just log on X number of characters, okay, well then why fight any wars?
Yeah.
All these it basically, it makes it feel like this war just means nothing other than just content. Yeah, content is great, but I don't it kind of pulls away from the whole like reason to fight a war, because I mean you can go and get content, like you don't have to fight a war to go and get content. Like you can go and just randomly roam around and go and piss someone off to get content.
Yeah, but you can't use your big toys. That's what people wanted. The people did this war. A lot of them didn't do it for content. It it had a lot for a lot of people. It's content is a good thing that comes out of this war. For a lot of people, they want to evict someone they don't like. For a lot of people, I'm not saying for everyone. A lot of people want the content. A lot of people just kind of want the stories to tell. But for a lot of people, it's a war about evicting someone, a war about killing an alliance. That being said, I think that M2 is going to serve as a warning for the rest of this war for both sides, like I said earlier. Whatever side is defending has a major advantage, possibly to the point of actually stalemating this war right now. I would call right now the war is stalemating. Pappy and Goonswarm are staring down, and they're seeing who blinks first, who's gonna make the move first. Once that happens, we'll see. If CCP makes a move first, if they say we're going to reinforce the node or we fixed it, we should be able to have a 10,000 player fight, whatever, 15,000 player fight, which would be the best thing they can do. That would be yes. And Joe, I said that earlier. If the iHub in your Keepstar system is different from who owns the Keepstar, that is a very bad scenario to be in because that's kind of the great equalizer now. Essentially, is that and Pappy does own the iHub for many Imperium Keepstars still. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is handled.
Yeah.
And I have faith that I have faith that CCP will do something. I have faith that CCP
Yeah.
is going to attempt to rectify this with a player base and tell them that this war can continue, because if they come out and they say, listen, there's something in the code that card limits this at 6,500 people, the size, let's say, Pappy and Test, Horde and Test could easily form that many, or at least enough to make that number unachievable, like 4,000 people, let's say. So like Unison can only form maybe 2,000 people and get them into system. It's not going to be a viable option for them to contest that timer. And like you said, this
Yeah.
war can't continue if CCP comes out and says that there is a hard limit to the number of players in a system the code can accept. So at that point, we're just kind of playing for pocket change at that point.
Yeah, well, and it sets a precedent that's, I mean, it's actually pretty unfun. Like the whole like, oh, just get more people into system, however, like 10 hours before the timer starts. Like, okay, but that's unfun.
Yeah,
Or jam up
and
the system. Like, I'm sorry, but that's unfun.
and for me, it's very unfun telling people that just get there after downtime and just stay there for the day. Like people can't do that. People can't be expected to do that. People shouldn't be expected to do that for a video game. If they want to, that's fine.
Well, and it's
But
not,
if
yeah, it's not even like people, it's not even expecting people to do that. It's just that it means that you can easily win just by jamming up the system. And that's, that's not fun at all. That's just boring. Because then you've got many alliances that could easily be able to do that. And the whole thing of the system has a cap limit, like, okay, we obviously found out that apparently something happens, goons can, it can cause a cap limit. But again, this is the first time we've ever seen that error of, hey, the system has a cap. Like,
hmm
and we had systems with much higher populations than were in M2. Like FWST, what'd that cap out at? Like 8,000 players?
6,000 and some, and we are still chugging along fine.
Yeah, so the whole like, oh well, every system has a cap. Like, the something definitely went wrong in the code. Like that's, I think that is obvious. Whether or not we should have foreseen that, yeah, we definitely should have foreseen that if we wanted to win.
Well, the server held to a point in FWST where we believed that it could hold more, and I think that's what PAPI leadership believed that it could hold more because it held, it didn't crash. There were long times on inputs. There is something different about what happened in M2 TAC than in FWST. Just I don't know what it was. Something different happened in the between those two fights.
Well,
And
what
I'm curious to see.
I feel like what was different was that the game broke.
Yes, the game absolutely. That's what I'm saying. What happened in the code between those two fights? What is CCP going to come out and say that they found something that maybe that this node that got the super node, let's say that they put this one on, isn't as super as they thought it was, but there's some kind of issue in the code that prevented it from utilizing the full resources. Let's say there's a memory leak, or there's some kind of coding error that capped it out to a certain amount of RAM on the server, like you can only use 256 gigabytes of RAM for the server, something like that. But and
Yeah. Something happened, and we're not gonna know. All we can do now is just wait for CCP.
uh, everyone talking about you can't overload the game, you have to limit the player influx. That's not a solution because you have to do things to win in these fights. And if not fighting or just not being able to fight is that, and we didn't have the ability to go in gradually. We formed an hour beforehand. Goons had already started forming 5 hours before the Keepstar timer had even come out. We formed an hour before.
Yeah.
We did plan to go in gradually. We didn't jump in 6,000 people at once. We jumped in capitals first. We jumped in one alliance capitals first, then one alliance of sub capitals, and then it died. We jumped in test capitals, and the test sub capitals didn't even make it, right? Some of the PH capitals made it, and one NC capital made it, I think. Or a few NC capitals made it, and one died.
Mm-hmm.
The subcap fleets. The subcap fleets honestly did not even get in. I heard of one fleet that was full when it jumped and had 10 people in the fleet when they landed. My Ferox fleet lost over 110 people jumping from T5Z to M2 TAC, and that was after the fighting had already started.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there was a like something happened. Servers died. It sucks that it happened. Realistically, the fact that we lost Titans wasn't the big issue here. It was the fact that this could this could set a very dangerous, and this is from my perspective, this could set a very dangerous precedent of, if we just jam up the system, then we win every fight.
Well, that's already
That's
been said. Is that? Or do you mean jam up as in log in more people,
Yeah,
as in stop? Okay, I get you.
that I think is the more pressing issue here, is the fact that if this is true and we can just do that, it, it's dumb, and it makes for some very unfun gameplay.
Yeah,
And
and
I think with that, that was my final words. Jeremy, you got any final words to say?
nah, I enjoy hearing myself talk as much as the next dude, but I think we we got what I say.
Yeah, I think we
My
beat it
final
to
word would
death.
be that Legacy, that Pappy, is not out of the fight. And if you're in Legacy and you think that we're done with, we are not. We still need you. And if you're in Goonswarm and you're celebrating the the end of the war already, I think you need to realign yourself and that realize that we still want more fights from you and that this war is not over at all.
And with that, this has been Between Two Keepstars. Remember, guys, always bubble wrap your Keepstars, and I'll see you guys next time.